come from the position of a strong Black man that doesn't actually express any vulnerability, right? And then over time, you go through this transition in life to where we're at today, where now actually vulnerability is being seen as being a strength in my industry. I work in the high tech semiconductor industry, right? And even to that point, I actually just wrote an article for Black History Month for my own company talking about, my vulnerability, right? And expressing some of the things that I've experienced and how that's impacted me through the generations, and trying to get other people to start to have this compassionate conversation with others in my organization around that, but using my Black narrative to help express that. So it not only plays out in home, right, with respect to trying to make sure I have that conversation with my own spouse and my own children, but it also plays out in the work environment because, like other brothers have expressed here, if we don't externalize this, then it just builds up inside, and it could be like a teapot, right? It boils over, and we're trying to avoid that. And so the other thing I would add is, trying to get past this thing, that the stigma that Black mental health is a disease, and actually it's not, right? And basically inform people that no, there are tools for you to be able to cope, and how do we get them access to the tools? So that's the other reason I joined today, right? Because in a lot of corporate America, we have these resources available that are employee assistance programs, and we have now mental health as part of the HMOs that we have, or PPOs, and to let people know that you have these resources. And even if you don't, so my wife and sister are in the mental health field, there are free resources, right, that you can get access to through state or federal funding programs, so that people can get access to the right treatment they need at a given time. So just wanted to have that support mechanism there.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Durante Craig. I am originally from the East Coast, Washington, D.C. I'm currently residing here in Long Beach, California. I'm a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I'm a digital marketing agency and an adjunct professor. I just wanted to jump in here and talk a little bit about vulnerability. I'm really excited to see all of us on this call and so many people jumping up, ready to go and be at bat and share their experience. And this simply just reminds me of a few years ago, during my, well, not a few years ago, several years ago now, during my time in undergrad at Bowie State University. During my time there, myself and a few other people were able to cultivate a space like this, where we had weekly conversations with the young men on campus, having vulnerable conversations and sharing, what's going on in our life, what's going right, what's going wrong, and opening up these transparent moments. And essentially this thought and this question idea of what vulnerability is, and what it's like, what is it opening up? To me, vulnerability, honestly, is a gateway to community, because coming to Bowie State University, never have I ever thought that I would be in a place where I was in a room of 80 young brothers looking up to me and looking over to me for guidance, but also feeling comfortable enough to share some of the things that they were going through. And so these rooms and spaces were conversations about my father being in prison all of my life. This room was conversations about, my mom having substance and opioid addictions. This room and conversations were also talks about things that happened to some of them that would never be shared outside of that space, but also common, thoughts. I used to have long locks and sharing that I would never cut my hair, but soon after finding that, I work in corporate America and people base you, they judge you based on your appearance. So I just wanted to reiterate that when you asked that question, the first thing I thought of was community, transparency, and how much you can get and how much value you can add when you're being vulnerable.
I want to go back to Durante and tell him that we're proud of you, and that, resilience, plays out differently for different people. But when you see someone that goes through the kinds of things that he described, and they go on to become an adjunct professor like he's doing right now in the owner of his own company at 26 years old, that's what we call post-traumatic growth. And I experienced some similar things. I was stabbed at 13 years old by my mother. And I walked into murder-suicides as a cop. I retired from the Marine Corps after 25 years, and I served in a combat zone. And so sometimes there are things that are supposed to be able to stop you in your tracks. and statistically speaking. But the combination of community we talked about tonight, combination of having a village or a support group around you, and then just having faith. We talk about like Second Baptist Church up in Orange County, leaning in on mental health, all of those things, and just having just for the young people that's listening, this is what I want to know, be it for those who experience things like Durante, or like in my case, just know this, that your past can inform, but it does not have to define your future. And so a lot of things that we go through, adversity introduces us to ourselves. And all of those things with help, with therapy, combination of things we're talking about tonight, they make you even stronger. And so just keep that in mind. Sometimes it can be dark. I know from my own experiences as a young man and through different phases of my life, sometimes it seems like your feet touch the ground and you're on fumes. But just know that there's a way up. And if you can look up, you can get up. And so tonight, in terms of just sharing our thoughts and feelings, we're also going to be sharing a lot of valuable tools and resources, culturally competent resources at the end of this particular space, not just for men, but for women, children, for everybody. And some of those are paid, some of those are free resources. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to, first of all, to the last few brothers that spoke with regard to mentorship, that's awesome. I'm always excited to hear that. To answer your question on my side of the house, I always look at it as we're all vulnerable to some degree. It's just the humanistic condition of living as a person. You're going to be vulnerable. I've found that, whether it be individuals that I'm training in Coronado, putting them through, I find that people are most vulnerable when they're going through a transition period in life. I think COVID showed everybody exactly how vulnerable we are as a nation. Individuals, people really had to look in the mirror. When I'm training individuals, especially in the age range of 19 to 25, if you guys remember being in that age range, you really don't know who you are yet. You're trying to figure it out. You're going through that first critical transcendence in your life. You have an idea, but you haven't really been put to the fire yet. And I'll see dudes or women, they'll really express their vulnerability, emotions, all those things in their pursuit of accomplishment to become something better than they currently are. So I would say that, from what I've seen personally, and obviously I can't speak for everybody, I'll see that people will really express their vulnerability when they really have no other choice. And I think that's what's really significant about this conversation that we're having tonight. We're really trying to figure out, how do we get to that point prior to people waiting to that point to where it's too late? And I think, talking to that education point that a lot of you guys have hit on is essential to just informing, the general public of the African American community, especially in that critical age window, of 18, or really just getting out of high school, of what adulthood actually looks like outside of our educational system. Because they really have no idea what they're getting ready to get themselves into unless they have, superb mentorship. And I'll cut it there.
One of the things I want to invite everyone within this particular forum is to, if you don't have a piece of paper, but you can use your fingers, but I want you to, I'm just going to give you about 1 minute, and I want you to pick 5 critical instances that impacted your life, just 5. Okay, if you have a piece of paper, you can write them down, but I want you 5 critical instances that have impacted your life. It's 5. And I just want you to sit with that, for a moment, and recognize the fact that with those instances that have impacted your life, that there were protective factors that mitigated some of those things you experienced that brought you to this space right now. And I want to acknowledge that we have folks within our community tonight. Just an invitation for you to share, your experience in terms of some of the life experiences you've had that you may want to bring to this forum.
One of the most positive or significant moments that happened in my life recently, I can attest to being accepted into my current graduate program to get my doctorate in clinical psychology. For me, there weren't too many, I would say, mentors in my life that encouraged me to do something that I would consider monumental, being the only person in my family at the moment going for an upper graduate degree and a doctorate nevertheless. It can be isolating, but also very freeing to know that I will very soon be in a position to hopefully give younger Black people, what I didn't have, which was a chance. And I'm humbled and also frightened by that level of responsibility that I have, or will soon have. But it is significant.
I think Dr. Robert Gillespie wants to share something now.
Okay.
Hello, brothers. Thank you so much for inviting me, Brother Ford. I think this is an amazing forum. Brother Ford wanted me to give you some background on, I'm a cardiologist in San Diego. I've been here for a number of years, 32 years. That's not what I'm on this line for. And we talk about vulnerability and the importance of sharing. When we're in this space, we're all should keep in mind that's what's most important. What I've learned in life is that when you have this collective energy to try to help each other out, that's most important. I have to share with you, despite some wonderful things happening in life, I had two wonderful children. I did. My daughter is a teacher in Los Angeles. My son, he finished high school, Presidential Scholar of the Arts, graduation speech, both 8th grade and 12th grade. He went on to college, was doing very well. And at the age of 20, he developed schizophrenia and committed suicide at the age of 22. So that was probably the last thing of this very confident, incredibly bright young man that I could ever anticipate it. And is that life-changing? It makes you understand how important it is to have these conversations because without those types of things, it's very difficult to get through some of these moments. But you can either decide to go into a corner, into a hole, or you can decide to come out and do something that's impactful. And my wife and I, we decided to put together, we'll work a foundation that is going to directly affect many of these issues. You said something earlier. I'm sorry I was running a bit late, but one of the things that we did this past weekend, we had 11 young men, aged 17 and 18, as part of one of our foundation events. And it was a 3.5-hour program in which these young men, we had a program to discuss being vulnerable, discussing life's issues, sharing my life issues, such as my son's unfortunate demise. These things are important. I heard someone say something about mental health is no different than I deal with heart disease. I have patients that will come in and share their heart disease and every other disease they have with me, but they won't let me know about they'll never discuss the depression, the anxiety, all the things that many of us experience. We know that Black children between the age of 18 to 25 have a 9.5% suicidal thought rate, serious suicide thought rate before the pandemic. That was in 2018. So these kids were quite vulnerable. They were very vocal in the way they felt honored to be in our space to discuss these things. So we have to understand that talking about mental health is not something that comes natural. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. My parents, we never talked about mental health. We never talked about in fact, even in my experience after my son's death, can't believe the number of people who've had suicides in their families, but they don't want to talk about it. They'll talk to me because of the bond. but they don't want people to know. There's some level of being ashamed about mental health, and somehow it was the individual's problem. That is, me as a parent, how could my kid commit suicide? And you always question yourself whenever there's trauma in our lives. You look at our experience as Black men in this country, that no matter how high we rise in the allostatic load, the stresses that affect us every day, from walking into a grocery store and being treated in a certain way, even if it's subtle, we know it. We know it because we've grown up in it. So I'm saying all these things to say that we have to talk about it. If you go to our website, jtgf.net, it talks about one of the things we say, we have to talk about mental health. And I'm so happy that all of you are here to do that. I'm glad to see some of the ladies on the line because they're so important to our ability to get through some of the stressors that we all have in life. So thanks again for allowing me to speak with you.
First of all, Dr. Gillespie, first
Yes,
of all,
sir.
no parent should bury the child. And so I want to thank you for all you do as a heart surgeon, everything you do in the community. And we'll let you know we love you, and we'll continue to be here for you. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing very personal stuff. And at the end of the day, whatever you wanted to share tonight would have been powerful. Just talking about your career. It was a very personal thing that you did, and we look forward to finding out more about your foundation in honor of your son. And again, thank you. We love you, and we're here for you, brother.
Thank you, Brother Ford.
And actually, Brother Howard put the website in the chat.
Thank you.
Okay. And, one of the things, with Dr. Gillespie just shared in terms of a brave space, right? So we have to create a brave space that extends beyond the whole notion of a safe space. Okay. So, and I want to check in terms of our time. I believe there were some other folks within our community that wanted to share some experiences.
Still have about 15, brother.
Okay. Okay. So those of you that have spoken before, I'm gonna ask you to just kind of hold because I want to make sure we hear from. So, Brother Ed.
Thank you, Dr. Harley. My name is Eddie Nunu, Director of Sorority Fraternity Life at UC Irvine. And so I think when you talk about experiences for me, mine was in my undergrad years, and it was about belonging. I don't think I had the people around me who could support and kind of give me the information that I needed to be able to thrive. And so it was my second year on campus as a Black male, struggling with academics and everything else there. And I thought it was a smart choice to take biology, physics, and organic chemistry all at once. And I got a 1.3 GPA. Like, I earned that 1.3 GPA. And I think I learned from that experience the beauty, the brotherhood that can exist in having mentors around you. And so in higher education, there's this theory, Assen's theory of involvement. The more involved an individual is, the more likely it is for them to persist and to find success on campus. I struggled within that space of not having mentors. I struggled in that space of not having these outlets to be able to improve myself. But it took me being able to find mentors and other individuals kind of point me in the right direction and make sure at least that if there are things that I needed, I could be able to tap on them and ask questions within that space. And I think one of the questions I currently ask my students all the time is, what is your relationship with your wellness? What is your relationship with anger? I think at the time I was a very much so an angry student who didn't know the ins and outs of college education, what it meant to be a Black male on campus. And I think I grew into that by becoming involved and being a leader to other folks. And so when other folks have talked about having mentors in their life, it plays such a critical role to me.
Thanks for this great forum. One of the things that attracted me to this forum of late is 2 or 3 weeks ago, I received a call from one of my line brothers. We were aligned over 40 years ago, and he thanked me for supporting him a year or so ago. I didn't think much of it, but he said he explained to me that when I called him over a year ago, and he's an attorney and is doing quite well. He just got rehired. That when I talked to him over a year ago, he had contemplated killing himself. He'd hooking up a hose and turned on his car and letting the garage door down and I was dumbfounded because I didn't know how to respond to it. I said, man, when you talk about having a suicide plan, I knew that from my previous training that's pretty significant. And I was so flat-footed in respect to what sort of help that could offer him. I said, man, I would feel absolutely horrible not knowing how to engage him in a constructive way to give him advice or to get help from him. I said, man, this form has to be used for the good, to let people who don't necessarily experience this on a daily basis, but is acutely aware of the consequences that sort of behavior has, not only individual, but the family and friends of that individual. So I said, man, we got to support this forum. We got to support this not only on this occasion, but in the future. So, and I was happy to lean into some of the more knowledgeable brothers on mental health issues and how to address those things if it should come up, because you really don't, it's no time to look into the mental health encyclopedia and say, oh, how do I react to this? So I appreciate the advice I've received subsequent to that conversation I had with one of my LBs.
Thanks. I want to thank Isaac for inviting me. We just had a conversation about this tonight, and thought I would come in after my meeting. I'm just a retired Master Chief, did 27 years in the Navy. Currently, I'm work for the VA and work similar in this space with veterans. Additionally, commissioner with the Race Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission in my city, actually helping them with that. But I wanted to bring up the fact that, this is somebody talked about transition earlier. The military, graduated high school, I'm a fatherless young man who didn't have the mentorship. No males in my family would step up and provide that guidance. So didn't have that. I come in the military and make that transition without understanding what it was to be, this Black man that's heading into the military and having that guidance in regards to what that looks like. So do 27 years and then get ready to transition, and transition brought about all this anxiety and stress of, all the past and getting ready to go and dive into something new. All I knew was after graduating high school, all I knew was the military. So that transition became very stressful, very anxious. But one of the things that I had to look in the mirror every morning, it came a point where I couldn't even get out of bed for 3 days straight. I was a command master chief, which I was the E9, so I'm the senior enlisted, part of the team that makes the command run. So calling my commanding officer said, I'm not coming in today. I just don't feel like it, and feeling shameful for it because of the fact that I'm the senior guy, done 27 years. I should have it all together. E9 in the military is a lonely spot. You can't talk up and you can't talk down. You're really the individual in your command by yourself, trying to figure it out and trying to balance all of it. So as I was transitioning out, the stress of it, really, and walking around, and I'm walking around telling my sailors, make sure you seek help, make sure you reach out, make sure you go down to mental health and get the counseling that you need. And guess what was happening? I didn't do it for myself, And one morning I looked in the mirror and said, I cannot continue to be a hypocrite and tell everyone and try to lead everyone to make sure they get the help they need. And I finally reached out and got the help. And one of the things I had the psychiatrist come up to my office after hours because I didn't want to go down and walk in and the junior guys see me and all of a sudden phones start going off. This man, Master Chief, is down in mental health. Something's going on. So after hours, about 4:30, counsel would come up, sit down and talk to me, and I would just share what I was going through. And because I felt I needed to be in a safe space. I didn't feel comfortable. I mean, as a man, I didn't feel comfortable being vulnerable to my wife about what I was going through. And then at work, I had no one to talk to really share that. So what was happening, internalizing all of that, getting ready to get out and transition to something else. But I needed someone to talk to and be in a safe space to do it and know that conversation would be protected and not shared. So I had the conversation with him, several days a week. And that was the best thing I've done in my entire life. It really, as I'm transitioning, it really helped me with that transition. And it helped me to not only be vulnerable for myself, but also use that opportunity to share what I went through with others so they can understand it's okay. I understand you're a single guy. I understand you think you got it together, but you really don't have it together. And you need to really seek out help. I'm dealing with a son that 7 years in the Navy who's dealing with mental health. Had a struggle in the military, wasn't, really from him after he got a couple more years in and really struggling to make it happen. And he got out and he's dealing with bipolar as well. And I'm helping him walk through that. I mean, I'm mentoring him through that. When he gets into the space, even when mental providers are not able to reach him when he calls dad, I can walk him through it. And guess what? I'm using my vulnerability to help him heal and walk through this. I'm sharing him where I've struggled with this because it's helping him to be able to deal with what he's going through. If he sees dad, that mentor that's being transparent and sharing what I went through, it's really helping him as he walks through it and he reaches out and he calls me and he's like, Dad, I'm struggling. And he's reaching out, actually telling me this, and I'm walking him through it. And by the time we get off the phone, hey, Dad, I'm better, I'm good. So I'm using that as an opportunity. I think our transparency and our vulnerability, not only with ourselves, is important, but using that as an opportunity to help someone else and mentor somebody else through that is highly important for us as well. Because I think Black men need to see other Black men be vulnerable to them about what they've been through. I think it's we need that representation. Because many times I'm still walking into spaces where I'm the only one. And again, like you said, being looked at. But I don't fear or walk in any fear in that space. I walk in confidence, knowing that what I've been through, I've survived, I've overcome, and I'm able to be transparent and share with those who are willing to listen or willing to seek out that assistance as well. So I just wanted to share that and let you know where I'm coming from. And thanks, Isaac, for having me and inviting me to this as well. It's been amazing. Thanks a lot.
One of the things that I want to do at this particular point is, commend all of you for being in this space, and being brave to share, those challenges that you've experienced, but also the fact that you've been resilient and you've walked in that, and you've been courageous, beyond brave. So as we structure these spaces, it's not simply having a safe space, it's creating a brave space. And I appreciate all of you who've used I statements as you talked about your experiences, and showed us primarily that there's strength in vulnerability, and that you can recapture your resilience no matter what your experience is. And that your narrative, that little narrative that I had you do, is to look at that, but also as you look at those challenges that you've experienced, also look at the actual protective factors that have gotten you to this particular point. And I'm going to, Brother Isaac, I think you want to take us on.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of the panelists, all of those behind the computer, our technology brothers, our guests, people that spread the word about this throughout the D9 in San Diego, OC, churches everywhere. And what we'd like to find out, first of all, there's going to be a wealth of resources that we're going to share toward the end here. And also, we're going to have a survey. We want to know what your thoughts are, not just the men, but the women that listen in, because it's about you too. It's about men, but the women, if there's somebody, if it's a man that you love, then I'm glad that you chimed in tonight. We want to know what your thoughts are, so we can know whether or not this is something we need to do quarterly or maybe monthly, and tell us more things that were most useful for you. And so hopefully this is a first start. But this is a pressing issue for the nation, and of course, women, our Black women, our Black children. It's a larger conversation, and definitely we look forward to opportunities to be able to expand the conversation and do more talks, because obviously listening tonight is definitely a need. So thank you for taking your time. Some people in the East Coast, all in the East Coast, it's 10 o'clock. For those that took the time after work today, thank you. And Dr. Harley and Dr. Gillespie and everybody that shared. We're very vulnerable, but give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts so we can know how we need to move next. And with that, God bless you. God bless your families. And if we have a few seconds here, I want to see if we get an opportunity to get Dr. Bannerman in. He came in late. Dr. Bannerman.
Hey, good evening, brothers. Sorry, I've been traveling, with my wife. Anniversary. She became the president of the Society of Maternal and Fetal Medicine this week, so I had to go and support her. For those that don't know, I'm an emergency physician for 20 years, and so I see our brothers come in when it's too late. And I just want to say that Brother Gillespie made a big point, which is between the ages of 18 and 24, the third leading cause is suicide. We don't want to wait till they come and see me, right? Because it might not be me. It might be another doctor that might misdiagnose them or not even take what they're saying seriously. So I just want to commend Brother Ford and the whole education team, ZSL, and all the other brothers for putting this together. It's very important. And I'm hoping that we could do this quarterly. And again, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being here. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Look at the resources and share the resources, everybody, if you would. All right. Thank you once again. God bless you. God bless your families. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Good night.